Welcome to week 7 of e-learning. This week we'll be doing the second part of the income tax project. For seniors, you do not have to do this part. This is actually the most important part of the project because you will be doing that actual tax return. But seniors, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. If you do it, it'll be extra credit for you. However, everybody else has to do this part of the project, and it's worth 50 points, so you need to do it. All right, so last week you did this part. And some of you have not finished this part yet, or I have not approved your work yet. So that's the most important thing. You cannot start the income tax project, the actual income tax return, what we're going to be doing this week, week 7, until you complete this. The part 1 that I gave you last week, week 6. So this must be done first, and I must approve it to make sure that all your numbers are correct, because if your numbers aren't correct, then the whole project is going to be incorrect. All right, so once that's approved, or you get you see that you get a 50 out of 50 in the grade book, you can go ahead and then you can start this part. But last week, you came up with a tax scenario. You found a job. You were supposed to go online to Indeed.com and actually find actual salaries for a position that you want to do and in the area where you want to live. So you found salaries. You computed the Social Security tax on that amount. Social Security is 0.062 of what your salary is up to, and the form I'm using here to show you is a little off. So I'm going to fix the number here. Up to $137,700. Now the forms that I have online on Schoology for you have the correct information. You computed the Medicare tax, that's 1.45% of your salary. And then you also chose a number between 10 and 25% of the federal income tax that you want withheld from your paychecks every year. So you did this part. You had between 1 and 4 children. You had a bank account. You had to have at least 2 bank accounts. And then you computed the interest on those bank accounts. Now, I will tell you, this is incorrect. And I forgot to change this when I printed these off. But 0.0125 is not 1.5%. It's actually 1.25%. Okay? So most of you didn't... You just use this number, and that's fine. I did have one student so far that did use 1.5%. So it doesn't matter, but I just want to make sure that you understand that this is just a typing error, that this decimal goes with 1.25%, not 1.5%. All right, the second page of this, you found 4 stocks with the dividends. Most of you guys did a really good job on that. You determined how much money you wanted to put away in your individual retirement account. You had student loans. You figured out interest on those student loans. You had some type of medical expenses that were not covered by your insurance. Most insurances don't cover 100% of your expenses. So I know my insurance will cover, I have to pay out of pocket up to $3,000. And then there's some other deductions and that in there, but the most I will pay is $3,000, and then my insurance will pay 100%. So all insurances are a little bit different. And then if you wanted to give money to charities and contributions, you could. You found a house. You needed to have the address of the house, and then you found the real estate taxes for your home. And then the last part was you computed the mortgage interest. And mortgage interest, that's the amount that the bank makes off of your loan. For the first year is about 90% of your payment. So you computed that, and that's going to be important for our income tax project, part 2. So this is what you did last time. I have to approve that before you can move on. So for this week, you're going to have 4 pages. I think there's 4 or 5 pages. Okay, the first page that you're going to complete is this. You're going to complete the W-2 form. And the W-2 form is mailed to you by January 31st of every year, and your employer has this completed. Well, since we don't have an actual employer, we're going to complete parts of the W-2 form so that you get an idea how to do it. I have highlighted the parts that you need to complete. Now, before we go any further, this is what I would recommend. I would recommend that you print off these forms and keep them with you as you watch this video, because I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight and put numbers as to where you can find the information on the forms. So it'd be really good for you to have the form to do that. Normally we do that in class together, but since we're not together, we can't do that. If you can't print, this is real important. This one's going to be hard to recreate. These are very difficult for me to grade online. If you're in class, I do it during the class period as you do work. You would bring it up to me. I would check things. It makes it real easy. We're not in class now. So I have to print off copies of your work. And if the copies aren't real good, it's very hard for me to read it. So as you're filling these out, please make sure you write your numbers clearly where I can read them. Remember, I have to print them off, and make sure your copies are clear. Some of you guys are sending me copies that I can't see anything on. So please be real careful of that. These are very difficult to grade. They take quite a bit of time. So it's good to have these forms here while we go over this. So this is the first form that I would work on. And I've highlighted the boxes that you need to complete. The box here, excuse me, is going to be, you're going to make up a name of an employer. So for example, Gordon's Automotive. All right, I'm an auto mechanic. Put an address down, make up an address. Okay, you're going to do that here. Down here in E is your name. So you would put your name. You would put the address of the, not your house that you live in now, but the address of the home that you bought in the first part of the project. That goes here. Now you're going to need to have two of these. You're going to have one for yourself and one for your spouse. So what you do is, these boxes that we're going to do are from 3 to 6. So the information we're going to, for the boxes, are going to come off of lines 3 through 6 on the first project. This part will be one of them. So this will be like for you. You're going to have a W-2 for you, and then you're going to have a different W-2 for your spouse. So do not mix them up. You have to have two different W-2s, because every job, and if you had more than one job, you would get one of these W-2s for each of your jobs. So you fill in your employer's name, your name. Okay, box number 1. This is your salary and wages. That comes right off of 3. Okay? So I'm going to put a 3 here so you know where you're going to. So you're just going to look on page 1 of, or part 1 of your income tax project, and the amount, you're just going to write it right there. Normally, these are all going to be the same number, okay, for most of you. Now, if you picked a job that was greater than $137,700, okay, remember, this is the Social Security tax limits. That means you pay Social Security tax. Okay, everybody pays Social Security tax. You pay it up to this amount, but if you make more than this amount, then you don't have to pay any more tax. So the most that you're going to pay is on this amount. So if you make less than this amount of money, you're just going to put line 3 amounts here and here. But if you make less, if you make more than $137,700, you're going to write $137,700 here. All right? But that's only for a few of you. Most of you have salaries that are less than this amount. Right? Box 2 is your federal income tax withheld. That comes from problem or exam or question 6 here, where you just chose an amount between 10 and 25%. So whatever you have here for you or here for your spouse, that comes, you're just going to rewrite it here. Okay? Box 4 goes with question 4. Social Security tax. So whatever you have here for you or here for your spouse, that's going to go here. And the last one is the Medicare tax. Same thing. Medicare was our question 5. So whatever you have here or here, you're going to just put here. Now on the real W-2 forms, some of these are completed. For example, if you have a retirement plan, you would put something there. But we're not going to do that. All you have to do is that part. So remember, you're going to do one of these for you and one of these for your spouse. Now, the next forms look like this. This is the actual tax return. When you did the presidential tax returns, all of them except Bernie Sanders had 2 pages. That was the old version. The old version was 2 pages. The new version's 1 page. Okay. In some ways, it's a lot easier. It's not easier for me because I'm used to the old version, but in a lot of ways, this version is going to be easier. Now, I don't want you to do this part first. What I want you to do is I want you to do the other schedules or first. So this is the interest and ordinary dividend schedule. These are itemized deduction schedules. And then you also have this one, Schedule 1. So we're going to start with we're going to start with the interest and dividend schedule, Schedule A. All right? Real simple to do. All this information is going to come from questions 8 and 9, okay? And question 10, where you picked your stocks. So let's start with the interest part. So this is going to be from questions 8 and questions 9. This is for your interest for like bank account type of things, anything that you actually get interest on. So for example, if you had, and this is how I want you to write it, whatever you have written and number 8, you're going to just recopy here. So let's pretend I have Bank of America. And I also want you to put how much money you have. So let's say I have $50,000 in Bank of America. Okay. Then the interest that you computed, which would be from number 9 on your page 1, that's going to go over here. And you don't put dollar signs. We don't use dollar signs. So let's just say you computed $150 interest. Okay? That's all you're going to do. You were supposed to have at least 2 of these. So you just copy them here. You're going to add them up and you're going to put the total, I guess, down in line 4. So this is the total. Okay. All right. Part 2 are your dividends. And dividends come from number 10. And what you're going to do is, I want you to write the number of shares and the stock and then the total dividend amount that you computed. So this comes from number 10. So for an example, if I had 100 shares of Caterpillar and my dividend for the year, remember it's for the year, the last column added up to, let's just say $250. And like I said, don't put a dollar sign, which I just did. You would write that there. And you were supposed to have 4 of these. I'm just going to write 2. Let's say this was 165, okay? And then right here, 6, you add them up. Okay? Now, let's just go ahead right now. We have this done. Let's go ahead and put these amounts. Remember, this is a schedule. This is where you it's like a worksheet. And then you get the numbers and you put these numbers on the first page of your tax return. So this and this goes, if we go to the first page of a tax return, if you look right here, it says, let me see here, taxable interest and ordinary dividends. It goes here and it goes here. Okay, so these come from Schedule A. And that's not A, that's B. Because this was Schedule B, and we're going to take these amounts here and here, and we're going to have the interest goes here, and the dividends go here. All right, that's how that fits in there. All right, after you do that, I think it's smart to go ahead and do itemized deductions. Now, we can do everything on here except for this part right here. We have to do part of the tax return to do that part. So this is your schedule, your itemized deductions, your Schedule A. All right, so let me show you what you have to fill out here. You're going to fill out medical and dental expenses. Okay, this came, you were supposed to come up with some amount of medical expenses between $3,000 and $10,000. So this is from number 13. So you're going to write that, whatever you have there. 2 says enter the amount from line 1040, line 7. Well, we haven't done our tax return yet. So we have to wait till we do a little bit of the tax return to finish this up. So what's going to happen is we're going to find some number, line 7, off that 1040 tax return. We're going to put it here. Then we take this number and we have to multiply it by 0.075. All right? When we do that, we write the number here. Okay, and then this is important. This is where people get confused. You have to read this very carefully. If this line, we're going to subtract, right? If this line is more than this line, you're going to put a 0 here. Most people are going to have a 0 here. Most people won't have a number here. But if you had quite a bit of, and it depends on your income, so it depends on a couple different things. But if this line is less than this, when you subtract it, you're going to put that amount here. All right? But we can't finish this yet. 2, we can write off state and local taxes, and then we can also do real estate taxes. That's what we're going to use. Now, there's all these other things. We're not going to do that. So we can do 5A and 5B. Now, 5A is this. When you go and buy something at a store, they charge you a sales tax. You could keep track of every penny in sales tax that you've spent over the year. Now, if you buy something large, like for example, you buy like a new boat or a new car or whatever, you're going to there's going to be quite a bit of sales tax. So that's something that you could keep track of. But for most of us that don't have major purchases like that, what we do is there's some kind of, you can estimate what your taxes are. And it's based on how much income you make, and it's based on how many dependents you have. So I just came up with a number. I just arbitrarily said that we made about $100,000 and we had two or three dependents. And that comes up to about $1,200. So everybody's going to write $1,200 there, right? Like I said, this number can vary depending on how much income you make. If you actually keep track of all your sales, all your receipts of things that you buy, which most of us don't. So it depends on a lot of things, but this is a pretty good average number. So we're all going to use that. B is your real estate taxes. And your real estate taxes came from 14 on the project, and they were down here. You found the real estate taxes for your house. So that's going to go here. Okay? You're going to add these up, and you're going to put the answer here in 7. So you add these up and put your answer down here. Okay? All right, interest that you paid. This is where your home mortgage interest comes in. So we're going to use A, I guess. It's going to be A. Okay, and that's the very last thing that we did on part 1 right here. The mortgage interest, 90%. So this is from on 15. You're going to put that amount here, and then you're just going to take it and you're going to bring it down here. Okay, we're not going to do anything else there. The last thing you're going to do on here is gifts and charities. So if you decided to give a gift or charity or whatever, that would be also from 13. Charities or contributions. Whatever amount you have here, you're going to rewrite it here. I think that was 13, right? Yes. Okay, and then you're just going to take that amount, rewrite it here. All right, once you figure out what your medical and dental deduction is going to be, you add all these boxes up. So you add them up, and you put the total here. Now, you're going to use this number if it's greater than $24,000. That's your standard deduction if you're married filing jointly. And we're going to all be, for simplicity, we're all going to be married filing jointly. If this amount is greater than $24,000, then you're going to use this. If this comes out to be less than $24,000, we're not going to use this paper, but you still have to complete it. All right? And I'll show you where that information goes in the tax return in a little bit. All right, the last thing that you guys have to do is Schedule 1. Schedule 1 looks like this. We're not going to do the top part, okay? The top part is where you put down if you have capital gains, if you sold something and you lost, like an investment, if you sold an investment and you lost or made money on it, if you had business income. Remember, some of our presidents, their business income was from speaking engagements, rents or royalties. If you own rental real estate, royalties, sometimes that's from like music or writing a book. You get royalties off of it. You have these schedules. Okay, we're not going to do that in our tax return. But what we are going to use is this part down here, the adjustments to income. And what you need to do is, if you're a teacher, and some of you have picked, either you or your spouse is going to be a teacher, you can put $250 for each person that's a teacher. So I haven't come across anybody that has 2 teachers yet for their jobs. So if one of you is a teacher, you would put $250 here. If you're not a teacher, you would leave it blank. This is only for teachers, okay? All right. You're also going to do an IRA deduction and student loan interest deductions. These come from number 11 and number 12 on the worksheet. So if we go back here and look at 11, okay, IRA, this is what you're putting away, individual retirement account for your retirement. You're going to add these together. So when we do the income tax form, we add both people's income and all their different expenses together. So you would add these two together, and then that's your IRA deduction, and then your student loan interest would be these amounts. You would add them together, and you would put them here. Then you're going to add everything. Okay, that's what this line 36 is, and you would write it here. This is your total. All right. So since we're right here, let's go and I'll show you where that goes on the income tax form. So if we look at the income tax form, we came up with some number here, and everybody's going to have a number here. It's line 36. So let's go to the 1040 form. This is where this is what you would send into the IRS that they would look at. That number we just came up is from line 7. It goes right here. It says Schedule 1, line 36 from line 6. So you would put your Schedule 1 amount here. You're actually just going to write it in here. This part's a little tricky on here. They don't really give you a place to put the number, but you're going to write that number right here. So that's where that comes from. Okay, that's what we just did right here. That number goes right in here. You're just going to write it in here. Okay, you're going to put it right in there. All right. Okay, so here's the income tax return. I'm going to highlight the parts that you need to do. So first of all, our filing status. We're all going to file married filing jointly. Okay, if you're single, you would do this. If you were filing separately or head of a household, you would do this. But we're all going to be married filing jointly. You're going to put your name, your first name, your last name. You're going to make up a social security number. Don't put your real one down, make it up. Then you're going to do your spouse's name here and here, and then make up a social security number for them. Now, these are like if someone can be claim you as a dependent. Well, we're married, we're not dependents anymore. If you were born before 1954, that would mean you were 65 years old. We're not 65 years old, or if you're blind. So we're going to leave all those blank. Okay, so that's for you, and then it's also for your spouse. You're going to put your address here. That's the address of the house that you bought. And then there's the city here, okay? If you want to contribute to the presidential election campaign, just check those boxes. If you don't want it, then leave them blank. And then you have children. So your children go here. A lot of you only had one child, but if you have children, they go here. Make up social security numbers for them. You can't use them as dependents unless they have a social security number, so make up a number. You have to put the relation to you, so if they're your child, you would put that. And then a child tax credit. This is amount that you can write off. A credit is that you take right off the top of your tax. So our children are going to be under 17, so we're going to have child tax credits. Okay. This box is credit for other dependents. So sometimes people take care of other people, like if you have an elderly, a disabled older child, like in their 20s, or if you're taking care of a parent, you know, you can use them as a dependent, but we don't have that, so we're going to leave that blank. All right, and the old tax returns, the very last thing you do is sign. Here we sign it right at the top. So you're going to sign your tax returns, date them, write down your occupation. All right, you're not going to do this part because we're preparing it ourselves. If you took it to like someplace like an accountant to do your taxes, they would fill this out, but we're doing it ourselves, so you leave a blank. All right, so how do you fill out the rest of the blanks? So 1 is wages, salaries, tips from Form W-2. So you have to do this one. Now, where do you get these amounts? Your Form W-2. Right here. But you have to add both you and your spouses together. So whatever's here, you would add together. Now, another way to do this is going to be your salaries. So it's going to be from question 3. You would add these two together, right? So I'm going to put question 3 here. You would add them together. That's your wages, salaries, and tips. I showed you where to find the taxable interest and dividends. Okay, you write those numbers here and here. That came right off of Schedule A. B. I'm sorry, I always get them confused. It's Schedule B. I even have Schedule B written here. So those came right off of Schedule B. All right. 4B is if you have a pension or an IRA that you're taking money out of. We're not. So leave it blank. Okay. 5 is if you get Social Security. We don't, so we take it off. Okay. 6 is the total. If you read it here, it says total income. You add up these 3. So you add them. And you put the number right here. And it tells you over here what to do also. So try to read, also, and try to see if you can figure it out. All right, so we're not doing a Schedule 1, so we don't have that. All you have to do is add lines 1, 2, and 3, and then you total it here. Now, 7 says your adjusted gross income. So we had an amount from Schedule 1 that we wrote here, okay? So 7 is you're going to subtract that amount from line 6. So you're going to subtract, let me write that so you can see it. So you have to do exactly what it says. We total these up. This comes here. We're going to take this amount that we got from our Schedule 1. We're going to subtract it from that, and that gives us this. So line 6 minus Schedule 1 goes there. All right? Standard deduction or itemized deductions. All right. Since we're married, filing jointly, we're going to do the standard deduction, which is $24,000. Now, we're going to either use the $24,000, which is a standard deduction, or we're going to itemize whatever's larger. So that goes back to this form. If this amount is greater than 24,000, we're going to use it. If it's not, we're going to put 24,000. Now, we didn't totally complete that because I didn't know what line 7 was on my 1040. So now, since we've done line 7, remember line 7 was here, I can go back in and I can finish up my Schedule A. So this is from line 7. I multiply it by 0.075, and then I read what it says. If this is larger than this, I put a 0 here. Otherwise, I subtract and I put the amount here. I add these all up. If this amount's greater than 24,000, it's going to go on line 8. If it's less than 24,000, I put 24,000. Okay? Okay, 9 is qualified business income. We're not going to have that. 10 is important. It's taxable income. Okay? Subtract 8 and 9 from 7. So we have a number here. We minus 7. We get this. So whatever number we have here, we minus this from it. It gives us our total income. 11A is the tax. So we have to do 11A. You have to figure out how much tax that you are required to pay. And your tax is based on your taxable income. This amount right here. So whatever this amount is here, you're going to look at the tax tables. And I put the link on this assignment. There's going to be a link to the IRS tax tables. We did the tax tables one of the first weeks that you had to find your income between two numbers, and then you found the tax. So you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to click on the tax tables. Whatever this amount is, then you're going to find what your tax is. And that goes here. That amount goes here. That's going to be what you owe. Okay? All right, 12, child tax credits. The child tax credits are $2,000 per kid. So if you have 4 kids, 2 times 4 would be $8,000 that goes here. If you have 1 kid, you would put $2,000 here. Okay? Tax credit, you subtract from the actual amount you owe. So credits are very good. If I owe if I owe $8,000 in taxes and I have 2 kids, that means now I do 8,000 minus 4,000. Now I only owe $4,000. That's why kids are kind of important when we're doing taxes, because they help decrease what you owe. So 13, you subtract your tax for how many kids you have, and then that's what you write in 13. Okay? We're not going to do this. 15, basically, you just take that number and write it down here. Okay? That's your total tax. 16, federal income tax withheld from your paychecks. You find this on Form W-2. All right, on Form W-2, this is how much tax that you had taken out of your paychecks. That was on line 6 of the project. So you had an amount, your spouse had an amount, you have to add them together. So you're going to take on line 6 of our first part of the tax project, add those amounts together, and they go here. So I'm going to put number 6 so that you know that that's number 6. Okay? That's how much money that you had withheld. Now, you owe this amount. This is how much you actually had taken out of your paychecks. And then what we're going to do is, we're going to not do this. We just take this amount and write it right here. Okay? That's the total payments that you made. Now, do you get a refund or do you owe money? So you have 2 choices. If line 18 is more than 15, you overpaid. So do exactly what it says. 18, you're going to subtract 15 from 18. So I take this amount minus this amount from it. If it's more, I overpaid, I get money back. If you get a refund, you're going to pretend, just fill in numbers. What happens is, in order to get this money back, they can write you a check or they'll just send it directly to your checking or savings account. It's a lot quicker that way. Right now, if you owe money, if you subtract 18 from line 15 from line 18, and it's more, then you're going to have to owe money, and that would go here. So you're either going to have something here or here, not both. And you're done. Okay? So if you have any questions on these forms, please make sure that you text me or call me or email me so we can set up a time, we can talk about it, or I can answer your question through email or text. Like I said, print these off before you watch my video so you can go through it. You want to do this first. You have to have one for each of you. Then I would do the interest and dividends, Schedule B. I would do Schedule A next, itemized deductions. But you can't do the whole thing. You can't do this part until you start your tax return. I would do this next. And then I would do my tax return. Okay? So I highlighted the lines that you need to do. You're going to make sure that you write your numbers where I can read them, and you make clean copies for me. You know, it makes sure that your copies before you send them are very clear and that I can read them. This is very difficult to grade online, so the better your copies, the easier it'll be for me. You're going to send all 5 of these pages, or 6, I guess, if you put the 2 W-2s. You're going to send them all to me in the submission for this week's assignment. I will go over it. If there's corrections that need to be made, I will send you an email. You will let me know what the corrections are. Send me the new corrected 1040, and you get your 50 points. Okay? So again, questions, make sure you contact me. This will be the last assignment that we do. So you have this week and next week and part of the following week, I think, to do it. But do not wait till last minute. I'm going to have like over 50 of these to do. They take a long time to grade and to get back to you so that you can make corrections. So you really need to start it this week so that I can start looking at them and have corrections for you. Right? Have a great week.